What's going on, Alabama fans? Chris Daughtry back with you guys doing an at-home video today, our second video today. By the way, we did a reaction, overreaction, whatever you want to call it, rumors type of video earlier this morning. But the transfer portal did open up today, and there's been a lot of movement already for Alabama, some scheduled visits already for Alabama, some guys for this team hitting the transfer portal, and also we'll talk about the guy that Alabama already landed in the portal a little bit on the back half of today as well. But look, I mean, this news is going to continue to break. It seemed like every couple of hours there was a new guy here for Alabama today hitting the portal. So make sure you guys are subscribed. We're going to try our best to keep you guys updated here on the channel surrounding everything Crimson Tide when it comes to the transfer portal here. Let's go ahead and just start off here with who has already entered for the portal. A couple guys that we already know here. Aeryn Hampton, wide receiver, entered the, I guess officially entered the portal today, but we knew back during the season that, he hadn't been with the team for a while here. So he was number one. Cam Howard, defensive back, entered the portal a couple weeks ago, or declared anyways that he was going to enter the portal. Roq Montgomery, offensive lineman, declared the other day on December 30th. But then today, Alabama has had 5 more guys declare that they are officially entering the portal here. You got Richard Young, running back, Jaylen Mbakwe, wide receiver, and then a couple of offensive linemen as well. Joseph Ionata, and the most latest one, Olaus Alinen as well. Oh, by the way, forgot to mention Jalen Hale has also officially entered the transfer portal as well. So in total there, you have, 3 wide receivers entering the portal. You have 3 offensive linemen. A running back there in Richard Young. So you've already got now 8 players to enter the transfer portal for Alabama. I'm not going to really say that, a ton of these guys were surprises. I would say most of them not really surprises. I think the only one that might have, kind of caught me off guard a little bit might have been Jaylen Mbakwe, considering some of the, comments he made last week. He was interviewed, I think it was during Alabama's Christmas party that they ended up having that, it was pretty much straight up asked, what's your plans for the future? Are you hitting the transfer portal? And he said, definitely not, which I will give him a little bit of grace on that. You're kind of put on a spot right there before, the Rose Bowl game as Alabama's trying to, make a run, or we're trying to make a run in the college football playoffs. Didn't really want to, to be a big distraction there. So I will give him a little bit of a grace, just kind of, not just saying, yeah, that my time here is done at this point. But, man, it is what it is, man. But, with the portal, you see right here over my head, this is kind of what the transfer portal is. It giveth and it taketh away as well. So, Alabama right now already up to 8 players entering the transfer portal. I want to hear from you guys. We'll set the line at like 10.5. What do you think? Is it going to be more or less? Type M for more, L for less down in the comments. We'll set that line at 10.5. Alabama players entering the college football transfer portal, and we'll make it the pinned comment of today's show as well. Let's just kind of go talk about some of these guys a little bit now. I'm not really surprised that Cam Howard, Roq Montgomery entered the transfer portal. I'm not really surprised that Jalen Hale ended up entering the transfer portal. Very unfortunate story, I think, there with Jalen Hale. Kalen DeBoer ends up getting hired. He is expected to kind of be one of these receivers that, should have a big time impact in this, Alabama system here with Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer. Ended up getting hurt during spring practice in that first year. And, this year was healthy, came back, and just with the guys that Alabama had there, in that wide receiver room, wasn't able to find a way onto the field there. Jaylen Mbakwe, kind of the same thing with him as well. Last offseason, he entered the transfer portal for what seemed to be about 24 hours or so, ended up coming back to Alabama and, switched over to the offensive side of the ball. Honestly, I think that was kind of a, to his detriment, kind of a gadget guy coming out of high school, very, very athletic, did a lot of things for his team. And I thought he played pretty well in his freshman year on the defensive side of the ball, had a couple interceptions and, wanted to play offense. And, if that's what he wanted to do, I don't really blame him for that. But when when you get to college and you go through an entire year of just, development on one side of the ball, that definitely does kind of stunt your, development a little bit when it comes to, switching sides of the ball. All of a sudden, you want to be a wide receiver. Alabama goes out. They add Isaiah Horton in the transfer portal last offseason. So he just wasn't really able to find a way on the field, on the offensive side of the ball for Alabama this year. So it's unfortunate that you're losing him, but I do think you can think of the bright side a little bit as well. I think Jaylen Mbakwe, former 5-star guy, is probably making a pretty penny when it comes to the NIL and the revenue share and everything like that. So with him going to the portal, you can, give that money to somebody else, whether it is, somebody that you're going to get out of the transfer portal, or maybe even there was a guy that kind of stepped up this year and, made some big plays for this team. Maybe they can give them a little bit of a pay raise as well. But we'll talk about the offensive line here in, just a second, because you are going to be losing some offensive linemen here. And I think that's definitely going to be a position in need that Alabama's going to have to target here in the next, couple of weeks. As the transfer portal is a 15-day portal window, by the way, officially opening up today. And then it'll close on the 16th. But players can also obviously, commit and sign to their new team after that portal closes. They just have to be in the portal before January 16th. All right, we'll come back and we'll talk about that a little bit more here in just a second. But first, this show does have a sponsor. It's a very good sponsor, by the way. It is Prize Picks. Whether you're starting a new routine or making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be very hard, but in life and on Prize Picks, it always feels good to be right. And with high-pressure playoff matchups every single weekend, you got professional football kicking off as well. So you can definitely get your Prize Picks lineups there with professional football as they get into the playoffs here. You have elite hoops action almost every single night. Action never stops, and Prize Picks lets you take control. One of my favorite things that Prize Picks added very recently is early payouts. If, your player gets off to a hot start, you may now have the opportunity to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. I've got one that I will try to remember to put on screen here for you guys, see if I can figure out how to do that in some of the post-prod here, but I'll show you guys my Prize Picks lineup for this weekend's slate of games as well. But look, Prize Picks is great because how you play is up to you. If you want flexibility, choose the flex play. You get paid, even if one of your picks misses. So if you're like me and you're not actually the best player at Prize Picks, that's okay. One of your picks can still miss if you choose the flex play and you still get paid out there. But if you're very confident in your picks, go with the power play. Because no matter how you play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, let's go ahead and kind of shift gears here and talk about the offensive line a little bit more. 3 more offensive linemen have entered the transfer portal here for Alabama. You've got Roq Montgomery, Joseph Ionata, and Olaus Alinen. Now, all 3 of those guys didn't really play a lot, if at all, for Alabama this year. I'm sure some of those guys, I know Olaus Alinen got some snaps. I think Joseph Ionata probably got some snaps in some of those games. Same with Roq Montgomery, but not a ton. There wasn't a ton of games this year where you were, out to a big enough lead to, develop some of your younger guys and get some of those in-game snaps as well. So you're losing those 3 guys, most of those guys along the interior. I think Olaus Alinen played a little bit of, or practiced at least a little bit at that tackle spot as well. But that's 3 guys right there. You're also going to be losing to eligibility. Jaden Roberts, Cam Dewberry, Geno Vandermark as well. You got a couple guys that have some NFL decisions here. Caden Proctor, I'm just going to go ahead and assume he's going off to the NFL. He's most likely going to be a first-round draft pick, somewhere around, that 20-ish, pick mark in the first round. Parker Brailsford is also going to have a big NFL decision to be made here as well. So, you're looking pretty thin right now along the offensive line. Say Parker Brailsford goes off to the NFL draft, your entire left side is gone at that point, starting center, left guard, and left tackle. Jackson Lloyd, we've heard a lot of positive stuff about him, but, he's going to be going into his sophomore season at that point. So is he going to be a plug and play guy there at that left tackle spot? I think you've seen some good things from William Sanders this year there at that left guard spot. You still have Casey Poe, you have Mal Waldrop, and Micah DeBose as well that have already been on this team, not including the 5 or 6 guys that you got in this 2026 recruiting class. So offensive line, I think, is going to be a massive spot for Alabama when it comes to the transfer portal here. So I want to hear from you guys down in the chat. How many offensive linemen is Alabama going to land in the transfer portal? That means guys coming to Alabama out of the portal. Let me know what you guys think down below. Now, before we get out of here as well, Alabama did already add a transfer portal player a couple weeks ago. They added Josh Ford to that tight end room. That's big time because Alabama's going to be losing some guys there. Josh Cuevas, he's going to be, out of eligibility. Brody Dalton also out of eligibility as well. I'm going to keep an eye on Danny Lewis Jr., what he ends up doing here. Is he going to hit the transfer portal? Is he going to stay at Alabama? I love Danny Lewis Jr. It's unfortunate that he has been so banged up as much as he has been this year and last year, honestly, as well. But I think he's a big piece in this, offense that uses a lot of tight ends. And I do like the guys that you're going to have next year. Caleb Edwards, Marshall Pritchett, Jay Lindsey, Jackson Marco. We'll see what he ends up doing there. But tight end could also be another position of need if Alabama ends up, they already added one. They're also going to be adding a tight end in the 2026 recruiting class as well. But we'll see if that becomes a need here for Alabama. But there's also 3 players that we need to take note of who are going to be on visits here in the next couple of days. We'll start off at that linebacker spot. Virginia Tech linebacker Caleb Woodson is expected, we'll use that word expected, to visit here on January 4th. Now, he's already played 3 years at Virginia Tech. In those 3 years, 152 tackles. He's played in 35 games, 11 and a half TFLs. So this is a guy with experience. He played in 13 games in 2023, 13 games in 2024, and then only 9 games here in 2025. But when you look at that linebacker spot right now, you're losing Justin Jefferson, you're losing Deontay Lawson, you're losing Nakai Hill-Green. That is your top 3, starting interior linebackers right there. So, I do like Caden Jones. I do like QB Reese. Who's going to be that third guy? Kane Wommack does like to use a third linebacker in his defense. Is it going to be one of those younger guys that, they recruited the hell out of in that 2025 class? Or are they going to target a couple guys here? It looks like one already. Caleb Woodson, linebacker out of Virginia Tech, already is expected to visit here on January 4th. Guy that we've already talked about a little bit here, USC defensive lineman, Devan Thompkins. I really like this guy, what I have seen from him. And look, defensive line is always going to be a position of need. I think, you're going to be losing Tim Keenan. But, for the most part, you'll be losing LT Overton as well. We'll see what, some of those other guys, that ended up getting injured. I think it was, Jeremiah Beeman. Don't really know what's going to happen here with Jamarian Latham. If he can get a, 7th year of eligibility because of that, season-ending injury for him as well. But, defensive line, always a key, position of need there. And a guy that is being, kind of noted right now as one of the top running backs in the transfer portal, NC State running back Hollywood Smothers, I believe is how you pronounce his name. Man, if that is how you pronounce his name, Hollywood Smothers, what a name for a running back right there. No expected date as of right now, but, they are in talks right now of planning a visit here with Alabama. He has played the first 3 seasons. First year, he was at Oklahoma State. He played 4 games that year, then goes to North Carolina State, 11 games there. The past 2 seasons, real big jumps in production for him. Had 571 yards in 2024, averaged 6.4 yards per carry, and then it jumped up again this year with 160 carries this year for him, 939 yards and 5.9 yards per carry. Also got into the end zone 12 times over the past 2 years. And we know the struggles that Alabama has had at running back, and you're also going to be losing Jam Miller. Obviously, you lost... you're going to be losing Richard Young, and, Dre Washington is also out of eligibility. But, that leaves you with Kevin Riley, Daniel Hill, A.K. Deere, and then you also have, E.J. Crowell coming in this 2026 class as well. And also the other kid that they added late, that his name is just kind of drawing a blank on me right now. But either way, another body in that running back room would be a big, key piece for Alabama right now. So we'll see if they can make some adjustments along the offensive line. We'll see if they can make some adjustments there in that running back room and just be more efficient in 2026, because I think that was one of the big key things this year. And I know a lot of people feel the exact same way as well, why Alabama sometimes just ended up faltering. They could not get their offense going sometimes because you got to be able to run the football when you're talking about big time college football here. So man, a lot of transfer portal news, rumors, everything like that going to be happening over the next couple of days here, next couple of weeks here. So make sure you guys are subscribed. We'll do our best to keep you guys updated.